I'm Tom Scottis. As you probably know, last summer the Ontario government passed Bill 13. It's called the Accepting Schools Act. Now, what this has allowed is the formation of gay-straight alliance clubs in all publicly funded schools, and that includes Ontario's Catholic schools. Now, Teresa Pierre is president of an organization called Parents as First Educators. This organization is struggling against the Accepting Schools Act and what it means for Catholic schools. They're trying to ensure that Catholic teachings will be encouraged and protected in Catholic schools. Hello, Teresa. Thank you for talking with us. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your organization?
Okay. We came to be about a year and a half ago when the Toronto Catholic Board was considering passing some amendments to its equity and education policy. And we were concerned that the steps they planned to take really didn't go far enough to protect the Catholic schools from this agenda of the Education Minister, Kathleen Wynne. And so we found that a lot of parents were coming out to attend some public consultation meetings, and there was a lot of concern. And those parents just decided to get together and try to work together, and the organization that resulted was Parents as First Educators. And since then, we've had a lot of support from across the province by like-minded parents. We've been working on now the respecting difference issue in the schools, how we're going to respond to this Bill 13, and we can get into that a little bit later. And the express mandate of the group, as it's come to be, is to hold Ontario Catholic trustees accountable to ratepayers through grassroots activism. That we find that the trustees are the group that have the legal authority over the schools, and we find that by conversing with them, that we can put into place some policies that can directly affect and improve things a little bit in the schools. So we currently have over 15,000 supporters throughout the province, and we are, enjoying a great period of growth, although it's under some less than perfect circumstances.
For those who have not been following this issue, can you tell us what the law now is concerning gay-straight alliance clubs in Ontario's publicly funded schools?
Sure. The law that allowed gay-straight alliances in Catholic schools, in all schools across the province, is called Bill 13, and that was passed in June of 2012. It was also known as the Accepting Schools Act. And what it says is that every school board shall support any student request to lead and establish a club that promotes the understanding of LGBT students. And originally, it was going to be left open what those clubs would be called. In the very last minutes of negotiating Bill 13, they put a stipulation that you would have to allow the clubs to be called gay-straight alliance clubs. And this caused problems for Catholic schools because the clubs that are called gay-straight alliances in the U.S. are dedicated to promoting the acceptance of homosexuality among students. And the bishops rightly said that this was going to pose a conflict for Catholic schools, and they were open to having anti-bullying clubs in the schools. They just wanted to give them a name that would indicate that they would be following Catholic doctrine and not be led by principles that come out of a more secular approach to sexuality. So the bill has passed, and the schools are obligated to allow the clubs to be called by this name if students request it.
Why should Catholics be so concerned about this law?
There are a couple of major concerns. I mean, the major concern is what the students will take away from those meetings. It's what's going to happen in those meetings, how easy is it going to be to regulate and control them, what kind of speakers are going to come into them. That's the major issue. But another really, really broad problem is that having the club, kind of endorsing them in the schools, also will make teachers and students afraid, I think, to speak up for Catholic doctrines on sexuality. And you could kind of say, oh, no, you're kind of worrying too much about that. You're conspiracy-minded. But in fact, this fall we did have the Minister of Education saying outright that the doctrines of the Catholic Church shouldn't be taught in schools because Bill 13 promotes a different set of values. So it's a concern that we're going to have a chilling effect on what students and teachers can say. Then there's the concern that we might down the road even have prosecution brought against Catholics for saying things. That's always there in the background too.
Have any gay-straight alliance clubs started among Catholic schools in Ontario?
Yep, there have been a handful of schools taking that name for their clubs.
Are there any provisions to protect Catholic teachings at GSA club meetings in Catholic schools?
Yes, there was a document produced by the Ontario Catholic Trustees Association, and one of the things that it says is that the teachers for the schools, the moderators, will be people who are versed in the Catholic faith, and they're to be there to refer discussions back to what the Catholic Church has to say about sexuality.
Do you think that's enough?
I think that it will depend on what the moderators are willing to say to the students. That it's definitely not a foolproof solution, I don't think.
How have the bishops in Ontario responded to this issue?
Well, just on the day that the announcement about the bill was made, there was a short statement from the Assembly of the Catholic Bishops of Ontario, and it simply stated that the bill had passed and that the bishops, as well as other Catholic groups, had expressed reservations about the legislation prior to its passing. And it said that now that the bill is law, Catholic partners will seek to work against bullying. So it was a pretty matter-of-fact kind of announcement. It didn't really contest it further. However, in October, there was a dinner that was in honor of Cardinal Collins in Toronto. And just prior to that dinner, Laurel Broughton had made her remarks about how Catholic schools shouldn't be teaching their teachings on abortion and homosexuality because they run counter to the spirit of Bill 13. And he did have some critical remarks to make at that dinner. And he said that Catholic schools, their rights to teach their faith are constitutionally guaranteed. And we call those rights denominational rights, by the way, because they're connected to the rights of the Catholic denomination. And he said that our denominational rights guarantee the school's rights to regulate their anti-bullying clubs in a way that's really Catholic. And he said this, and I quote him, he says, "This means following the method outlined in the document respecting difference." So the bishops have, indicated their concern that Bill 13 does pose a problem for the schools. He also indicated that night that he's concerned that the religious freedom of the schools has been infringed by them.
My sense is that you're a bit disappointed with the response of the bishops so far.
I would have preferred to see on the part of some Catholic group, whether it's the trustees or the bishops, something stronger, perhaps a legal challenge would have been helpful. But I do think that we still have a route open to us, and that is that the trustees can invoke their power as the legal authority over the schools and adjust Bill 13 to fit the Catholic context, to fit the denominational rights context. And there's nothing preventing them from doing that regarding Bill 13, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to find a way forward along those lines.
And this leads to my next question. What is your group's strategy in order to try to rectify this problem?
Well, we laid out the legal rights of trustees to adjust legislation in a legal brief that we commissioned this summer. And we had sent it to all the trustees in Ontario to just inform them that the situation isn't necessarily closed by the passage of the bill. And we've subsequently been calling and talking to them to discuss the issues contained in that brief, and we'll be hoping to engage them in their different boards.
Are there any signs that the government may change its position on this?
I wish I could say so, but I don't think it's likely that the Liberal government will change its mind at this point when they've had so many opportunities to do that prior to now. It's not impossible that the law would be changed, but I don't think this group is likely to be the one.
Are there any indications that the leaders of the opposition may want to try to change this law in the future?
We haven't had any statements to that effect, but it's certainly a conversation that could be had with them, I would think.
As you know, our new premier is openly gay. What significance do you think that might have on this issue?
Well, she was the one who originated the equity and inclusion policy back in 2008. So all of this is definitely her brainchild. So it would be a bit concerning for us to find her now in the position of premier, and we'll have to keep monitoring that going forward.
Okay, Teresa, it's been nice talking to you. And on behalf of St. Gabriel's Newsroom, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you as well.
Thank you, Teresa. If you are concerned about the current situation in our schools regarding the sex ed curricula and the gay-straight alliances that are now becoming prevalent in our education systems, check out the PAFE website. Their address is www.p-first.com. I'm Tom Scottis. Thank you for watching.